Santa Barbara, California, 1980. Recreational scuba diver Rick McKeever goes missing at a sunken wreck of the Liberty ship Allen. A day later, his mangled gear is dredged up by a search team. His apparently violent cause of death is a mystery. Was it sharks? A boat propeller? Hans Ulbrich, who was his dive buddy that day, insists it was something far more terrifying.
Where is he?
In 1998, I acquired a box of intriguing photographic negatives thought to be destroyed 18 years earlier. They tell a story involving lifelong friends Hans Ulbrich and Rick McKeever. They grew up together in southern New Jersey.
Rick and I, we fell in love with diving, in high school. We just magically started doing it. It was just, it was amazing.
They attend different colleges, but after graduation, they decide to put off careers and head for a West Coast adventure.
We'd gotten back together and decided that we were basically going to live our dream, our first real love of our lives, which was diving. So I had mentioned to him, that I'd heard about Santa Barbara, California. And he said, yeah, I heard about Santa Barbara, California as well. So we mutually decided, let's go be Mavericks, let's go do this. And we moved to Santa Barbara. We got a little place. This is just a tiny little, one-room shack with a couch, a little souvenir shop in the marina there. We were hoping that we could get jobs, on a commercial dive boat. But those jobs were just, they were all taken.
They trade work as deckhands for dive time and live a party life in the California sunshine.
This gentleman walks in. He's kind of loud. He's dressed nice, and he sits at the bar next to us, and we start talking with him. And before you know it, one thing led to another. He's buying us drinks, and he's talking about us coming and hanging out with him all night. So we were like, great.
I tracked down Leonard Ryberg, the wealthy boat owner they met that night.
We were down at the marina. My regular crew and I would come back in, been out on the water on my 38-foot fishing boat, pretty nice little boat, and Rick and Hans kind of joined up with us, started having some cocktails. They were talking about how they wanted to go scuba diving. So I told them, I said, we're going back out later tonight. If you guys want to come party with us tonight, then, I can put you in the water tomorrow morning. There's a couple of reefs down there, Rep, you can dive. As long as you bring us up some lobsters for lunch, it's all good. I'm figuring, hey, I got somebody to dive for lobsters for me.
It is on March 27th of 1980 that Ulbrich and McKeever dive on the Allen, a sunken wreck that had been there for years. All the locals knew about it. They had done it a half dozen times before, whenever they could con their way onto a boat for free. But this dive would be their last.
It's really early in the morning. I'm pretty heavily hungover, so I nudge Rick, and I say, hey, it's time to do this. Let's go dive. Let's make this happen.
They put out to sea around 9 a.m. A half hour later, they are 90 feet above the wreck of the Allen.
It really was a beautiful day. It was a gorgeous day. The visibility is about probably 30 to 60 feet. Maybe at times even better than that. So we're halfway down, we're feeling good, feeling better as we're heading down. We get to the bottom and we start searching for lobsters. We're very close together because, being dive partners, that's how we were taught, and we were, basically within about 5 to 7 feet at all times. But we heard this strange like roar come out of nowhere.
Hans and Rick know the ocean is filled with incredible mystery and danger, but what they are about to witness is beyond imagination. After a night of partying in Santa Barbara Harbor, Hans Ulbrich and Rick McKeever dive to a wreck 90 feet below to find lobster for lunch. But they are not alone.
I'm not sure where this roar came from, whether it was on the surface or was on the boat moving or shifting or there was something on the ground or behind us. So I look at him, he's looking at me, and I'm thinking like, don't panic, we generally don't get scared because we've seen a lot, but this was really loud and it was really strange. So we look around, we can't see anything, and we continue on looking for lobsters for this guy. Within about, I would say, probably 30 seconds, we experienced like a thermal climb. And if you're not familiar with that, that's when, the temperature of the water changes. But this was extreme. And simultaneously to this happening, the water visibility started to go down a bit.
Suddenly, the two divers sense something behind them. McKeever turns and looks and shows immediate signs of physical panic. Before Ulbrich can wheel around, something takes out McKeever.
Something just came out of nowhere violently. It brushed me as it came by, and it attacked Rick. It literally ripped him away from his position. And when it happened, it was so violent that the turbulence was like a wave. It was like a wave hitting me. And all of a sudden there was like just red around me. And I couldn't see Rick. And I'm starting to really freak out at this point. I'm looking around, I don't see him, all I see is red. I'm looking frantically for my friend, and he's nowhere to be found. Before I knew it, my heart was beating so loud it was just in my eardrums, just pounding away. That mixed with the current and the red water, I was literally panicked out of my mind, and I had to gather myself together, and I said, I gotta get out of here now, or I'm not gonna get out of here. I was freaking petrified. I managed to make it about 3/4 of the way up. Some kind of courage in me told me, look for Rick. Just take one last look. And he was nowhere to be found. There was nothing there.
So I'm walking around the boat looking for bubbles, hoping they're coming back up, and that's when I see Hans.
Ryder! What the hell's going on? We gotta go!
They help pull me up on the boat, and I'm kicking and screaming the whole time. And they're looking at me like, calm down, calm down.
And he says, we gotta get out of here, otherwise we're all gonna die. We didn't want to leave because we wanted to find. Hans had come up too quick, so he was gonna start getting sick from the bends, and I knew we had to get him back in. So I called the Coast Guard and told them that we had a diver down and where he was.
The radio chatter is intercepted by a young news photographer named Lee Van Aston. I convinced him to discuss this disturbing incident.
At that time, I was working as a freelance photographer for a local news station. I was listening to the radio scanner when I heard about an ongoing Coast Guard search for a shark attack victim. And I could hear there were several vessels out there looking for a victim. And then a call came across.
Coast Guard PB-219, I think we've got all we're going to find. We're going to go ahead and bring it in. We're still good monitoring. It doesn't look good. Looks probably like a boat propeller got him. Maybe a shark
Van Asten ascertains the vessel number and the location where it will be docking. Eager for a scoop, he rushes to the pier. He meets the boat crew as they are unloading and laying out the evidence for the coroner and police. The crew is clearly inexperienced with the press. Van Asten presents his credentials and is able to take unobstructed photos. There is nothing left of McKeever but trace evidence. His wetsuit is shredded, his regulator hose torn, and his tank severely scraped. It had all been found on the ocean floor about 100 yards from the hull of the Allen. Also discovered is a massive talon with a hunk of fleshy cuticle still attached. The claw measures 9 inches along the curve. The search and rescue team seems as in awe of it as the young photographer does.
I asked if it was a deformed shark tooth, and they didn't know. And even if it was still 9 inches long, and that would make this animal a total freak of nature.
I believe Hans Ulbricht's account, and now I've seen Van Asten's photographs. What was this creature? A new, undiscovered species? Or an ancient one? I'm not sure. A diver has been killed, and TV news photographer Lee Van Asten has captured evidence of a strange cause for this incident.
I immediately realized I had some once-in-a-lifetime pictures. And when I noticed that the police were coming, I just headed back straight to my car and got out of there. I went back to the darkroom to get those films developed for the 11 p.m. news. Then at 7:30, some guy in a suit showed up at the news station looking to talk to the manager. But they left with the films, any pictures I was able to develop, as well as the negatives.
Despite having gathered information on what appears to be a compelling story, the station doesn't run anything on it at 11. They do report on it the next day, but the incident is described as a boating mishap, with no emphasis on the massive violence McKeever suffered. The news station and the search team refuse to answer any further questions about it. As the weeks go by, a traumatized Hans Ulbricht falls into a deep depression.
It was really starting to get to me. I mean, I couldn't even make my best friend's funeral. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I had no desire to dive. I mean, I had lost what felt like my lust for life, along with my best friend, and just a horrifying memory of that day. The way the newspapers reported the story was just a complete sham. I mean, they got it so wrong. I mean, they called it a boating accident. I mean, this was not a boating accident. This was something much more. I started to feel obligated to get the truth to the surface.
Ulbricht seeks out a reporter from the Santa Barbara Herald-Leader, a small local paper. It's a fairly reputable publication and known to be a little more aggressive about the stories it would get behind.
You know, I almost felt like I was being mocked, honestly, when the guy had first come up, because he was young. I noticed something different about this reporter. He actually looked like he was listening to me. And he was writing stuff down. He wasn't dismissing me. This guy was believing me. For the first time since the incident, or whatever you would call it, I had somebody to believe my story. I get a phone call out of the blue one night. I pick up the phone, there's a strange voice on the other end of the line. I can't place this voice, but it doesn't sound good. This guy tells me, listen, you need to shut your mouth. And I'm frozen. Normally I would tell somebody like this to go to hell. And he starts mentioning my family's names, their full names, and their addresses. Nobody knows about my family. Nobody knows anything about, where we're from. So I'm quite taken aback, and I'm scared at this point. He tells me I need to shut my mouth, get all of my together, and get the hell out of town. Now. At that point, I decide this is real, and something really big is happening here that's bigger than you. Next morning I get up, I pack up everything I have, I put it in my car, and I roll out of Santa Barbara, content to leave the whole damn thing behind me. I, at this point, for the first time, am comfortable to speak about it again.
Ulbricht's leaving town may have been motivated by more than fear. Neighbors say he departed in a new car, which he never could have afforded given the financial hardships he describes. California motor vehicle records show that he indeed owned it. Where did that money come from? The oceanside town of Santa Barbara, California, has been shaken by the disturbing death of young diver Rick McKeever. Just when it appears that the whole matter is going to blow over, a man's disappearance and presumed death, evidence of a cryptozoological creature, and what is clearly a cover-up, a shuttle boat sinks while departing the deep drilling rig Blue Thalassa 6 miles off the Santa Barbara coast. The sinking is preceded by a short, harrowing distress call.
Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is Huguenot. We've just been rammed. Christ, requesting assistance.
There are no survivors. The Huguenot is a 40-foot vessel used to transport administrative personnel, documents, and small cargo to and from the platform. Robert Corso knows the boat well. He works on Blue Thalassa loading and unloading transports during the period in question.
Huguenot was some 3 miles out from the Blue Thalassa when he sent out a distress signal that they'd been rammed.
Oddly, the area is immediately declared restricted, and civilian craft coming to help are waved off by the growing fleet of Navy and Coast Guard vessels.
The ship had been broken into a lot of pieces, which sort of confirmed the report that she'd been rammed. Although that's very, very deep water there. I can't imagine what they would have run into. The crew and everybody were lost. I think the next day, a human leg floated to the surface, but that was it. They never found anybody.
It seems too much of a coincidence that this occurrence is in the vicinity of Blue Thalassa drilling station. The state-of-the-art oil here earlier, and has technology to drill in waters 2 miles deep, the deepest in the world at this time. And the geologists on board found the drilling experience to be unusual.
We were wildcatting off the Channel Islands, drilling in about 1,500 feet of water. And then it was about a few thousand feet of sediment at that. And what happened was we found this very rare pocket of Silurian limestone. And Silurian, that period of time is like 430 million years ago. And so it's really neat to find these because they do end up being really huge caves. As we drill down through these layers, then with the Pacific coast and the plate set up being unstable anyway, it just, all these pressure vectors, if you will, created this collapse of the cavern.
In the days following the rupture in this cavern, crew members report hearing strange sounds at night, almost like a wail, but more aggressive, something akin to a grinding foghorn. Not long after, Rick McKeever meets his untimely end. The Navy knows there is something in the water. They briefly track a large sonar signature, having motion consistent with that of a sea creature. It's 45 feet in length. The Navy quickly releases 15 trained attack dolphins into the area.
Attack dolphins are mainly used to patrol, harbor areas looking for enemy divers. They're just like security guards, They just monitor the areas looking for signs of trouble. They are armed with a snout-mounted hypodermic lance with a CO2 charge, which they're able to inject and just immediately blast right into a body. And when they do ram that into their victim, the embolizing effect, it's just gruesome and deadly.
Ostensibly, the dolphins identify their enemy from the scent provided by the detached talon found near McKeever's gear. No one knows how it all transpired in the depths of the ocean, but it must have been one hell of a battle. Of the original 15, only 9 dolphins return, all of which have discharged their weapons. The dolphins give the signal to their handlers that they have found and killed a target. Analysis of the claw eventually yields a best guess as to its origin. It is thought to come from a creature resembling a massive Montiel Tosuchus aruta composi, but with longer limbs and more agile claws. Its behavior also shows an uncanny intelligence. But for now, the waters would be quiet. Until, in late August of the same year, this 8mm film appears. It was shot in late spring by a Mexican fishing boat operating in the Gulf. The decayed mass in its nets appears to be the head and upper torso of a huge creature. Its single remaining forelimb dangles, showing massive claws similar to the one recovered in the McKeever incident. Contained in the fleshy mass are 2 leathery eggs the size of human heads.